Hey, howdy. How you doing? Chris Courtney here. New Pragmatic. It's that time. It's time for the feedback loop, and I'm just getting things underway here, making sure that we're up and running on the YouTubes. It looks like we are, so that's good. Gonna basically hide that away now. Um, always got to double check. Always got to double check and make sure that's up and running. Um, busy morning this morning. Um, Congratulations to Rebecca and to Eve for landing new projects. Projects are different than full time employment sort of things, but you know, I do believe that projects in your portfolio build up the portfolio and lead to success later. And the big thing about the program is that I really do believe in doing more work as soon as possible with real people in an environment that's going to give you that real world experience rather than working on just class projects and class projects and class projects. So often, what you really need to do going through something like New Pragmatic is get the basics down. For people that have never done product design before, you might not understand what the parts of a form are or how a flow goes together, and you kind of need to work through that before you start interacting with anybody on a product. Understanding how the series of steps work and understanding the parts that go into one of those steps is important. Understanding how to pick apart a problem and kind of look for not just the parameters of the problem but the scope of what you're going to try to build as a solution. Those are things that are pretty important to understand before you jump into projects with other people, because it's not just you spending your time, it's also them spending their time with you, working through some of the things that are pretty important. The project Eve has now, I'm really excited about it. It's helping raise money for an organization, and I think that that's fantastic. I could not feel better about students from New Pragmatic doing that sort of work. But that said, CouchBot is fired, so we're going to get this thing underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. Got a plethora of updates this morning. First of all, congrats, Eve. Congrats, Rebecca. Both landed new projects. So I'm super excited to work with both of you to get those things underway. As I was stating a little while ago, or if you watched the videos before, by the way, click subscribe if you're new here, and you'll get updated when we go live and when new videos are posted. But as I was stating before, or I have stated before, really, really, really firmly believe that you don't need to do school projects. You need to do real world projects, and that's what Rebecca and Eve are both doing. They're jumping out and taking their skills that they've developed here and beginning to work on those first outside projects. So super excited about that. But we have a whole slate of things to discuss before that. Abby's here. Abby's here with two different projects and two different courses. Abby's doing stuff over in UI and doing stuff in UX. So it'll be fun to catch up with her. Ricardo is turning in his first UI work, his first UI work in Figma, and then Eddie's also checking in. So a lot of people moving in a lot of different directions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get this underway. All right, let's go ahead and let's start with Eddie. Eddie's breaking down position. He's at the very end of Intro to Product Design. And one of the things that's really important, and I stop here and I show you Eddie's written work today, because it's important to remember that when you came in, one of the first things I ask you to do is go find 3 jobs that point out what is required for that job, and then what do you have and what do you need. Eddie's picked out some jobs, and some of them are down there in Southern California, some of them are in Florida, The important thing to look at is Eddie realizes right away he brings some skills to the table. Like there's some things in that job posting that Eddie's a manager at a T-Mobile. Eddie's done some work with Adobe Creative Cloud products. That's great. He does not have an online portfolio. He does not have workflows, design workflows, and wireframes and mockups that show his ability to build out a user experience and an interface. It hasn't messed with HTML and CSS. So it's seeing like where you're at and where you're going. And Eddie, this is a great breakdown of, you're aware of what's going to be required of you on the other side of that hill. Also important though is you realize there's a part of you that exists right now that plays a role in that job in the future. Like you are not leaving current you at the door. You're bringing current you with you, and we're adding skills. So I think it's very important for everybody watching this to realize that what you did before is important to what you will do after this. You're not discarding that. It's not a shell that you you don't come out of a cocoon and suddenly you leave that thing behind. You're bringing all that experience with you, okay? And it is important to frame your mindset with that there, and to say, okay, I realize I'm doing some new things. I'm realizing that this is a job that's in a slightly different, that is in a different field, but I'm not starting from zero. It's not like this is my first job. I do have other experiences that play into that being a potential employer. So I just wanted to point that out there. Good job overall on that. I want to go over here to Ricardo. Ricardo is working through the Visual Basics, so he's in his he's over here in UI. And if I could find my way back to Figma, oh, it's over here. Yay, Ricardo. So part 1 here. I thought you did a really nice job. Picking and let's get the grids. Let's get the grids reapplied here. Hey, where did my grids go? Oh, interesting. I thought for certain you had grids turned on. Well, maybe you deleted them away for some reason, because it does appear that, well, at least over here, the grids are being applied. Here, horizontal focus. This works for me. Good choice. It looks like you've put some sort of colorized gradient on it or something or another. Not a big deal. Not required for the assignment, but not gonna ding you or anything. When we get into spacing, you'll figure out, like, you want these things to be even, but that's not the thrust of this exercise. The thrust of this exercise is, can you look at the content? Can you pick out something that moves horizontally that is nature-based? You did a good job there. This is the vertical variation of that. Works very well. You did, again, it's hierarchy. Am I taking the time to put focus on a particular item? And you do so very well here. This one's less well done, and some of this, there is this divider line here that says bottom of the window. Okay, don't worry about the bottom of the window. All right, it is not. That's just there to identify, like, if you put something down there, you're gonna have to scroll to get to it. Okay, it's not a big deal, but the spacing up here is not great, and because you haven't given me edit access to this, I'm gonna actually just duplicate it real quick so that I can work with it. It won't be in your version of it, so just be aware of that. As we come through, first of all, I want to say the vertical focus on this one is really super cool. I don't like the if I was looking at this as an image, and let's just pull that over to the side so we can take a look at it. It's not a great crop for the image, so I'll just say fit, so we can see the image. You can see the image is you can't really tell what the image is doing. However, I do like the fact that you've taken this and made a shape out of it. I think that's very creative. All right, so I want to give props where props are due. That's a creative usage of these two images. All right, it it is it's more of creative display, but I think it, again, you're trying to create hierarchy, and it's, basically you're creating these two things, and you're taking these two things and making more art out of it. All right, but it does dominate. It is grabs the attention. I also want to come through here, and I want to look at the grid that we have here. I'm just curious, maybe has it been turned down? Oh, well, it's very interesting. Where are my layout grids visible? Yeah, there we go. Same thing here. I'll just break it because I'm not sure what's happening here. Yeah, so you're on grid there. This one, this one's the problem child here. I'm not really sure where to focus at. If you were going with space, if you're saying, okay, Chris, I'm making this, I'm trying to. There's a lot of weird spacing here on this. I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm trying to put my focus on this. If you were making a play for spacing, I would want to make this a little larger just to align with the grid. And then I would want to just, and I'm not sure what is going on with the shape here. It's like you've got auto layout on it. But okay, so here, if I was just going for a pure space play, I could make this I could make this work, and I'm going to put this in prototype mode just so we can see it for a second, and that'll put the prototype play button here. So when we look at this in prototype mode, like, this is clearly the largest image, and then you scroll down and then you get to the other stuff. So like, from a hierarchical perspective, yes, that works. It's dominating. It's, it's small, but in the prior form, which is over here, we don't get enough space. Like there's just not enough space to work with. The other thing I would say is, like, this doesn't have to be. These don't have to be even as big as they are. And I'm gonna take auto layout off of this because it's just kind of it's messing with my ability to do things with this shape. All right, so it's really weird that that frame is still there. All right. So essentially something like this could work. Pure hierarchy, though, says that works better. Okay? I've got space, I'm using space, but I'm also saying, okay, I'm just going to use sheer size. And that's the difference between where you're at and where you could be. And I'll get rid of those grid lines for a second, and then we can also look at it here. And here, what's interesting is you get a sense that there's something down here that tells you to scroll, right? And that's great. That's what I want. But there's still this sense of, okay, space and size. All right, this has space and size. This doesn't really. So this one feels like a miss for me. But I hope that, like, you can see what adjustments I might make to get it to the finish line. Okay. Let's go to part 2 here. And part 2, you know, you're clearly knocking this back, this image, in an effort to, you know, what's interesting is, oh, okay, so okay, I get it. Okay, I see now what's going on. You've gone through and adjusted the exposure here, and basically the reason you've done that is because obviously that's a problem. Like it's knocked back too much, and this typography just isn't working. The one thing I would encourage you to do is think about the environment that she's in. Like she is clearly sitting at a desk that isn't immediately apparent without showing the tablet. And let's look. Oh, no. Yeah, sorry, you're over here. Okay, I have too many copies. But the setting for that image is pretty important. Freedom to work from anywhere. She's clearly sitting at a table. She's doing something there. Okay, that matters to this image. So I wouldn't want to lose that. Additionally, if you want to go with this blue hue thing, you could always just make that white. All right. You've also got a lot of space over here. And I realize that you're kind of doing this the auto layout thing, but you've got a lot of space here. This doesn't have to be as big. Freedom to work from anywhere. Like sometimes you just have to like zoom out a bit. All right. It doesn't have to be as big, as over the top as you had it. And then the question becomes, okay, well, do I need this? Do I need to do all of these adjustments? And I'm just making, I'm looking at this, and the answer is probably not. I mean, that still separates out. That's still fine. I've seen other people come through, and I'm just going to look at the crop here for a second. Yeah, probably something like that. I've seen others come through and put like a gradient back here. So if you wanted to do that, you could come over here and say, hey, I want to put a fill on it, and that fill is going to be black, and it's going to move from here over, and I'll make it multiply down so you can see through it. So you've got that option too. Okay. This is pretty tight to the bottom here, so I'd probably move that down a bit. But the big thing here isn't what you're doing on the image, it's how you're cropping the image. And if we look back at where you were just a second ago, it's that crop that really matters, okay? Yes, emphasis top. You're trying to put the emphasis all up here so that we don't really pay attention to these items. Those items are very secondary. Got it. However, does that mean that you need to make all the photographic adjustments that you made? It's debatable. The big thing though is the crop. I think you could make you could keep this photo treatment if you wanted to, but the crop is the deal breaker for me. I can't tell where she is. Freedom to work from anywhere. I want to see that she's working, doing something, and that tablet or whatever that is, that phone, helps me with that. All right. This one's a little more egregious. So emphasis left, and basically you have her looking up at freedom to work from anywhere, and I think that that's fine. Here's freedom to work from anywhere. It's the crop of this image again that's troublesome. If I just slide this information down, sure, we could go tall here. Let's look at the image. The image, you're all the way to the bottom. You've got a lot of dead space up here. All right. The question I have is, if we're really pushing this photo around, does it need to be as big as we've made it? And here I'm going to crop this a bit more. So much of this here at the top, we don't need it. And it looks like you've got some... Oh, maybe there's... Huh. It's almost like there's a gradient on top of it, but I can't see it. Oh, you put an inner shadow on it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Again, I don't necessarily think that the inner shadow is necessary. Sometimes it's just like, I'm going to take this image down. And again, this is where I'll pull back in the grid. So there's the grid. That's 83. Maybe you just need 70. Focus is still emphasis left. Okay, like we haven't done anything that pulls that away. And now if you wanted to make the photo a little bigger, you could, although I don't necessarily think you need to. But this has her looking back, same like basic. It's a different crop. It's a different presentation than what we had over here, but the emphasis is still here, and I think this allows you an opportunity to not have to deal with how do I get this information to separate. And what's going to be really important, Ricardo, is to remember that this information has to go from a desktop eventually down to mobile. Like this everything that we're going to do here is going to be responsive at some point. What happens to this on a phone? And I look at this and I go, okay, well, actually, let me just copy that over. Can I? Yeah, I can copy it over. All right. What happens to this on a phone? Well, on a phone, this is going to get shorter. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's bring in a frame for we'll use the Google Pixel 2. All right. So the Google Pixel 2 is like that. All right. You could obviously see right away that, like, you could probably take this and put it here and adjust the size down, which is going to be pretty standard. And then it's this image. Like, what happens to this image in its current form? It's going to come down. Sorry, I got to drag it into the frame. So it's going to come down. We're going to get rid of that drop shadow again. But we're probably going to have to shrink it down so that it actually works with the phone. And then, like, what happens with all of this information? Does it reside still on top? No, it's gonna come down below, or some sort of other variation. So you're going to have to do a radical overhaul for this when it moves out of desktop into mobile. I wouldn't layer typography over the image like this, particularly on those small items. Layering this typography over, it's fine, it's big, okay? It's big typography. Try to stay away from doing that with the small bits. They're very hard to separate out. Finally, this is emphasis left 2, and it's much closer to where we ended up pushing. You're like, okay, so you're going to do something different with this typography down below, and that's fine. Um, the so for you, what you've done is you've basically just said, okay, I'm going to go big with the image, and that's fine. I think you can do that. I think the crops that you've used are a bit extreme, and I think you've always got to be true to the imagery that you're working with. And this is old school me going back to my print days and kind of thinking about some poor crops that I've made in the past, and to all the photos that I've butchered before, and I have butchered some photos before, no question. Okay, I have made some poor photo editing decisions, but I wouldn't encourage you to follow me in my 20 something footsteps here, where I might make a move like this. But now I realize, okay, well, when I'm looking at this, I really need to see somebody at work, not just somebody. Okay? So that's really what we're working through here. Yes, I do think this works. Also, don't feel like you have to fill up all the space. Give it some room to breathe. Okay? This is where spacing and placement really come into play. Anyway, I digress. I think that they're mostly that for you. This comes down to the crop. This information can all be. We can slice and dice this information 20 different ways, and make it better. Just as I said, don't feel like you have to squeeze everything into play. I was just squeezing everything into play. I should be completely comfortable with this, and I think there's another one somewhere or another. I should be completely comfortable with this as a solution. Just let it breathe. Don't try to fill it. Every single bit of space doesn't have to be filled. Okay? And this is something, you're coming from print. Print is like, use all the space. Got to use all the space. We have a limited amount of space, so you got to use it all. Okay? You're in pixel land. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. Pay close attention to your crops. All right? So I'm gonna flip this around, and I'm gonna say, okay, what would we do if we said the emphasis needed to be on the right instead? Okay? So you have this image of the girl, and like she's looking the other way. Like, what could we do? What could we do? All right, I will kick that back over to you. I want to look at Abby's work. I'm meeting with Maddie later. This is Abby's work. Abby's working through form structure, and obviously, part one of the exercise. We've all seen forms like this before, where they're asking us for just what seems like a ton of stuff. And Abby, you're completely right. Some of the stuff doesn't feel to be packaged together. It's very sporadic. You're asking me for things like arrival dates, and you're asking me for things that I don't think you necessarily need. You did a very good job of breaking this down. So this is like, you said part one, but you've I think what you mean here is this is all, you hit next and you get to the second piece of the form, you hit next, you get to the third, and this is where you hit submit. I do think you need some sort of wizard or stepper here to tell you this is part one, this is part two, this is part three, to set the expectation for the user, like how much stuff am I going to have to go through. And I noticed that you built some of that into later forms that are part of this exercise, but it didn't find its way into here. So that's the only thing that I see that I would add here, is I would add something up here at the top that tells me, okay, how many steps is this? Part two, obviously form selection field. And there's a ton of stuff here. It's like, holy crap, what's happening? The goal here is to only use the form fields that are necessary to create an account, to book a plane ticket, to update a credit card, and to subscribe to a newsletter. Some of these forms are very long, as you can see here with book a plane ticket. You've got departure date, arrival date, origination, destination, first name, last name, email address, payment type, credit card number, expiration date, CVC, submit. Okay, so that works. I would also insert that, like, a lot of times for these, for a plane ticket, you sometimes need like the birth date of the passenger, passport number. Like, there's all sorts of things. Like, this could actually be even longer, and that's my point. It's like, yeah, this is the minimum of what you might have to go through for booking a plane ticket. On the flip side, with a newsletter, it's I need your email address, and then I need you to hit subscribe. And I realize subscribe is misspelled there, so I gotta go back. I think I believe that's on me. Yeah, it's misspelled right there. I need to update that. It's even spelled right there, but not there. So update a credit card. First name, last name, credit card number, expiration date, CVC, confirm. I actually don't believe you need first name, last name here. Some of this is about context, all right? If I am in my account and I'm updating a credit card, you probably don't need my name. Now, the question there is, do I need to add a name? Okay? But that would be, I'm adding a credit card, not I'm updating a credit card. So semantics, it could be there, but it's likely something that's already filled in. The credit card number, like, I'm deleting away a credit card and I'm literally updating that field. Create a new account, first name, last name, email address, confirm email address, password, submit. I could actually see this as just being email address, password, submit. Like, I don't necessarily need first name, last name. I do need email address because I need some way to, a lot of times it comes back to, what do I need? What do I need to fix this if something breaks? Like, if you say, I lost access to my password, I've got to have a way to contact you. That's the email address. The first name, last name, questionable. Confirm email address, also questionable. I think it's good to have it in there, but I know it drives people batty. So overall, pretty good there. Let's look at part 3 here, and this is a series of. So here's create new account. So here's first name, last name, email address, confirm, password, and then create. One thing we're missing, like, any sort of like if you've broken this up into a couple of steps, but I don't have a next button here, so I'm not quite sure how I get down to this part. So that's something to think about. Also, I really like the size of the button that you have over here, but you go with a really significantly smaller one in other places. This is pretty standard. Like, if I was looking at this is 45. The target height for most of these is 44. So you're definitely in the right realm here. Less so on these. This is more of a desktop presentation. So go over here on dark mode. So dark mode is just, I'm basically flipping everything to a lighter color. One interesting thing that I've always found here on things that are dark mode is that it's rarely, if ever, completely white on these form fields until they're active. Like they're kind of muted back. So that's something to consider. I didn't even notice you had a stroke on those. So, but overall, I think it's fine. I could also, also on these, just to like, if we knocked this back, oftentimes this is where, destination, Orlando. Didn't realize that you had put that into a... What is that? Div auto layout on that? Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. It's a lot easier to work with when the text is already there and then you do the auto layout, but whatever. A lot of times when you have these sorts of scenarios, they're utilizing like an off-white inside. It's just easier on the eyes. So something to look at when you're going with a dark mode is that you don't actually have to have stark white elements, because they'll like pop out. And I gotta get back to, there you go. So this is one thing I do like about this is you did decide to put a stepper in here. So book flight. Here I think this should be this is where microcopy comes back into play, and I know you're working through microcopy right now in another part of the program, but this is where the language here isn't necessarily next. It's confirm or purchase or something. It's not. It should give them some sort of indication of what's happening next. Like the difference between here is like, this is flight information, personal information, or more about you, or something that, like, when you hit next, I want to know like what I'm going to. Here it should be enter payment details or payment details, like that tells me what to expect when I get to this screen. And then it's like confirm purchase or purchase, not next. Okay, so if I hit next and it said, hey, you're confirmed, I'd be like, oh crap, I thought I was going to be able to look at my itinerary, or review entries or something to help out there. So this is no lines, very pretty good there. You basically said, hey, I'm not going to get bit by by the outline of the box thing. I'm just going to use a dark color on the background and reverse the box out. That's exactly what I'm looking for there. Again, this is where I really feel like these fields would probably be filled, and then it's update credit card, and you're going through and selecting the fields that need to be updated. So this should be, and this, you could have confirmed back here. You also want to have like some sort of back arrow here, because you're coming in to update. What happens if you go, oh, I don't want to update? How do I cancel out of this? Like, there needs to be some sort of way to exit. All right. And I realize, like, you're kind of throwing things against the wall here. It's probably the first time you've really designed for mobile, so it's hard to remember like what all is happening here, because on its face, tell me what needs to be inside of update credit card. But actually, I need a way out of here too, because if I decide not to update my credit card, I shouldn't have to. My only path through shouldn't be just to confirm that I'm going to update. Okay. And then finally, so here is the newsletter, and you've added some really wide. This is like a really wide hamburger. But it's, please, if I hit subscribe and I haven't entered something, like, please enter a valid email address. So, that all works for me. Again, there's some spots here like, how do I get down to the second screen? What is the phrase that I'm using for the steps through on that button? The size of the buttons. How do I get out of the credit card screen? Like, there are little things that I hope that in walking through it with you, it's clearer like what's missing. And then let's look over here at the community microcopy. And one thing that I did here is I wanted to get, this is teacher viewing assignment, and these are all the steps that are required. And one of the things that I did was I took the flow that you included. Thank you, by the way, for including the flow. And that allowed me to like just mirror across the top roughly where we were in this process. And I thought it was really helpful in understanding, because what's hard to see here is first step, second step, third step, third step error. It's difficult to see like what's actually happening. Yes, this is the assignments. I'm in assignments. I'm in assignments. I'm in assignments. I'm in assignments. Assignments. Okay, so now I'm in name of assignment, name of assignment. So I what's helpful here is to understand like when I'm going to transition views here. Like I go from the home page into something called assignments. I'm going to do a lot of work in assignments, and then I'm going to come into a specific assignment. So that's one step of it, just understanding the general progression. On each of these pages, I have, like, so here's this basic information. Hey, I've signed in. I can see, like, there's something on my dashboard that says to do today, and there's probably a list of things. But I have classes, assignments, gradebook, resources. I'm not sure where those buttons are on the page, but I know there's those buttons on the page. When I get into assignments, I can filter that page. I can search. I see the class name. I see date turned in and owner. So I'm guessing I see a list of assignments. Here I'm searching by, and I can hit class or student name, which is select assignments, class or student name. I think it's here. This is an error state. So if I search and there's nothing turned in, I would get no results found. So step 4 is if I search by a name, I get the results. Like it's a list for, and that then there's like the results. There's class name. There's the date turned in. I'm not sure what owner means because it seems like that would be like whatever's coming back. That would be the owner of that assignment. That like whoever turned it in. It feels like that would be right. Step 5 here, filter, search by, class name, date turned in, owner, view assignment, grade assignment. So here I've selected from the list, and I could say I want to view that assignment. I'm not sure you need view grade because it seems like it's one and the same. It's like I want to view the assignment, and when I get to the assignment page, I can grade it there, but I could be wrong. Here we're on the actual assignment. So here's the student name. Here's when they turned it in, the student's name, the assignment. Helper text, like number of words. I don't know what number words means. So that would be, having a little clarity on that would be helpful. View assets, and then grade. And then there's an error here that says no assets attached. So do all assignments require assets? And if all assignments do require assets, should I ever be able to submit an assignment without assets? So, and I'm thinking about like the person submitting the assignment. Should they be able to click submit if assets aren't attached? If it's going to throw an error for assets, or have I clicked view assets and it's saying there are no assets attached? Okay. The big thing here, the thing that's important is you now have, you've gone from having a flow that basically says, okay, here are the steps I'm going to go through, to now understanding what is actually associated with each of those steps in terms of content that will be on a page. And a lot of times this stuff is, and oddly enough, you're pairing form with microcopy, which is like the kind of the perfect synergy of the two, of UX and UI working together, because the microcopy that would be on a form helps you fill out the form. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of boxes. I do believe there could be a place here very high up to give overall instructions for what to do, like a sentence that basically says, select from the options below to begin grading, or something, you know, you know, something to help push the person forward. Because otherwise, it's like assignments, and I just see a wall of assignments, and I've gotten no instructions, no little bit of direction from the page. It's just get started. So overall, I feel like this is probably the right material. Um, I definitely think it's I have a better sense of what's in your head than I do just from the flow. And again, this is like I'm going to carry the flow and I'm going to carry the ball forward a little bit more. I do have questions about the number of the item here, helper text number of words. I don't know what that means. I don't know. What if this assignment is a video submission? Are there any words? I don't necessarily know. But I would like a little clarity there. And then I would like to ask, is there anything that can be placed up here, top level, that would help somebody finish the work that follows below? All right. So with that said, I'm going to flip back my screen and we'll wrap this up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. Thanks to Abby, Ricardo, and Eddie for submitting work today. I hope it's been enlightening for all of you. It's always enlightening for me to get a peek into the work that you're doing. I'm going to meet with some of you a little later today, and for the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.